For the first time since 2017, Ohio State has shut out a Big Ten opponent. Second shutout of the year in the books for the Buckeyes. Western Michigan was the first. Purdue is the second. That's Andy Backstrom. I'm Spencer Holbrook. That's the 41-year vet, Tim May. And if you didn't read Lettermen Row on Friday, I truly feel terrible for you, because not only did Spencer get the bold prediction correct of 6 Ohio State guys to score a touchdown, but Mick Walker, our recruiting ace, predicted a 45-0 Ohio State shutout. Well, guess what, Mick? That's a job well done. Job well done for the Buckeyes as well. A block punt kicks it off. Will Howard gets in the end zone. It's 7-0, and it's off to the races from there. A complete performance from this Ohio State team, Andy. And now it's on to Northwestern before you get the last 2 games of the year, which are pretty big ones.
Yeah, special teams was kind of the start of the press conference for Ryan Day, and he had mentioned earlier in the week they wanted special teams to be a plus for this team.
Yeah.
Something to actually change the game. It did today. Caden Curry coming in, getting his hand on that punt there. Mitchell Melton was also in there as well, and they were really happy with that result because they've been putting a lot of effort and work into the special teams unit this year. They just haven't really been getting the output. They said they made some personnel changes this week, and you get a change in result, a block punt, and I think that was the first block punt since 2022 when Lathan Ransom had back-to-back games with a block punt.
Yeah.
So a game-changing play on special teams to start things off.
Yeah, I asked Ryan Day, because this is what you want. When you win a game like this, you don't want to just get the W. You want to get something out of it that basically just kind of jumpstarts your team into the next week and stuff. And I thought they did a very good job, Ohio State did, of getting some things on the field, some of it good, some of it bad, like that wide, I want to call it that wide 3 defense they were throwing out there, shades of Oklahoma State or something, when Jim Knowles on that, second possession, didn't work that great. But when they tightened things up a little bit, it worked a little bit better. But the point is they got it out there on the field to look at it from a video standpoint. It had a lot of energy, but not a lot of compaction. But then the block punt was huge, And then Jack Sawyer getting a scoop and score. Number one, the block punt was huge because not only was it a block punt, but Caden Curry did it. Caden Curry, a guy who's not a forgotten man on this team, but I think a guy who's wanting to be more of a factor. And he does that, and you could see how excited he was. And then, of course, Jack Sawyer gets the scoop and score after JT Tuimoloau knocks the ball out. That was huge for Jack Sawyer because he had a pretty decent game, a half a sack and a couple other plays plus a touchdown. That's a good day's work for a defensive end.
Yeah, it sure is. Ohio State dominated this game from start to finish, really. Trevion Henderson, 6 carries, 85 yards, 14.2 yards per carry. I thought he was fantastic today. He was very clearly the featured back today. Quinshon Judkins, not his best day, 11 carries, 32 yards, but when you rush for 170 yards, you only have 20-some plays in the first half, and 4 of them came down in the red zone when you're trying to just punch one in from 8 yards out on the block punt. You're going to have some wonky stuff like that. 6 catches for 87 yards and a touchdown for Jeremiah Smith. He now is the leader in all the categories for a freshman receiver. Catches, check. Receiving yards, check. Touchdowns, check. Jeremiah Smith, at the top of the freshman record book for Ohio State. He's quite remarkable, Andy.
Oh, he's fantastic. There's not too much more you can say about it. He is
we got to keep doing it, though, for another 7 or 8 games.
Right, exactly. That's what he says, right? And they might get there.
Yeah.
But he has been awesome, and I think it was important they got the ball to him early and often because there's been games this year where he hasn't been targeted that much, either in the second half or the first half. He needs to be involved all the time. Didn't have really the production in the second half. They didn't need it today because he had the 6 catches for 87 yards all in the first half. Thought it was interesting at one point. He thought he was done for the day.
Yeah.
And Brian Hartline reminded him that he was not, in fact, done for the day. But then that just goes to show, his humility after the game, admitting to that. Again, we talked about this before. He's a very mature guy beyond his years, super impressive. But offensively, you go across the board, you had a lot of guys contributing. Jelani Thurman had another catch in this game. G. Scott Jr. had a touchdown catch. Might have had 2 if he didn't drop that one early on in the game. But a good play kind of leaking out after being held up a little bit. I think that was the 3rd or 4th read maybe on that play for Will Howard to find him there for a touchdown. So a lot of contributors. Emeka Egbuka didn't have a catch until the 4th quarter, and it was a touchdown, 10-yard score. So a lot of guys were involved in this game on defense and on offense.
Yeah, isn't it amazing? And I think it's interesting, more than amazing, how you feature one guy, or it seems like you're featuring one guy from one week, and then the next week there's somebody else. Carnell Tate had a drive. That was his drive today. But then Emeka Egbuka, there he is, all kinds of school records he's on the cusp of or has already passed, and yet they run a little reverse pass, meaning he goes in motion and he reverses back out. and then catches that little swing from Will Howard, his only catch of the day for a touchdown. Makes a good move with the ball once he gets it. But and like you're saying, Jeremiah Smith, how could he ever not be in the plan? The initial plan, the primary plan. But it just goes to show what I know. Spence and I have talked about this a lot, and Andy, you have too. The depth on this team, like Will Howard was going through it. In the post game, all the receivers that deserve to get the football, and it's not just the first three.
Yeah.
And it's kind of hard to keep everybody happy. I don't think they're worried about keeping everybody happy, but it was amazing that in a game of this magnitude, Emeka Egbuka not only hadn't caught a touchdown pass, hadn't caught a pass all day. And they finally get it to him and get his little badge of honor sticker for the day. But yeah, this offense still has places it can go to, which is amazing.
Yeah, I think they do. If I can, not negative, but just a point of not concern either. I think they need to get Emeka into the game more.
I agree.
I do. He's so good with the ball in his hands. He's really good with the ball not in his hands. So you obviously feel his impact when he's in there. But like one catch for 10 yards, even if it's a touchdown, like that's not enough. And I think Ohio State would be wrong to say that is enough. And I don't think they would say that.
Yeah.
Other notes on offense, I thought the offensive line performed pretty well. The run game a little clunky there at the start, but I think they really did get it going, and that's fine. I thought that there might be a little bit of a sleepy start. Maybe there was. If G. Scott doesn't drop that pass, then you're probably not, because you're extending that drive and maybe scoring on that first drive. Purdue didn't really stop Ohio State at any point in this game. And Ohio State, I think, could have probably named its score, starting with the pass down the sideline to Jeremiah Smith when he was just one-on-one man coverage. Like, oh, we're gonna have that open all day? It's gonna be a good day for the Buckeyes. Flipping over to the defense, though, they did a lot. They did a lot, and they're probably lucky to have a shutout here. Purdue missed a 21-yard field goal on just a horrendous decision by Ryan Walters. 21-yard field goal. You're a 38-point underdog. Well, get out of here. Get out. And then you miss another field goal. There was an interception, I think, in the red zone. Like, this defense is very opportune, Andy, but also like it caught a couple breaks today.
13 takeaways now in the season for Ohio State's defense. They had 11 all last year. A low bar that was not great for last year's defense, but again, to get over that, I think is important. You have the defensive touchdown we already talked about with Jack Sawyer, but also the Lathan Ransom interception you kind of just touched on there in the end zone, making a good play. Actually, a play he said that he messed up on in practice this week. So that is something that he said he's going to remind Jim Knowles about after the game. I thought that was funny. But yeah, the defense did a lot. There were 6 players with at least half a sack. Joshua Mickens, got to shout him out at the end of the game, got one of those. But both JT and Jack Sawyer had half a sack. Sonny Styles had a sack. You kind of go down the line of the defense, a lot of guys were back there making some wreckage in the backfield. I also thought that, I think you were getting at this, Spencer, that we saw some schematic differences. There was that 3-down lineman at one point. We saw the jack being used, I think maybe for the first time since the 2022 season, really at least in extended fashion. Mitchell Melton was in that role for a bit in this game. It didn't seem to work out too well.
Nope.
And that's just an interesting thing that they're throwing out. And I thought it was particularly interesting that it was so early on in the game. It wouldn't be that crazy to see that maybe in the third or fourth quarter, but this was still, I think, a 1-score game at the time when that happened. So I thought this was really just a day of experimentation defensively with that schematic twist, and then also offensively, the 2 running back package that we've been talking about and haven't really got to see until today, which mostly worked. There was that one play where they lost 8 yards, but then they went back to it later in the game, and it was spectacular. Travion Henderson had like a 29-yard run and then scored the 19-yard jet sweep touchdown off of it.
I thought it was amazing how well Purdue handled that 3-wide defensive lineman look. That jack, with the jack and stuff. That was maybe their best offensive 4 or 5 plays in a row of the game. Obviously Ohio State had to jump out of that, and go back to the 4-down look at the end of that drive. And I think it was where they missed where Purdue missed its field goal. Early. But it was amazing to me how well Purdue handled that, because they hadn't seen that from Ohio State this year.
Yeah.
At least I haven't seen it. Maybe they saw some secret tape. But the bottom line was I described it as a lot of energy unharnessed, because Mitchell Melton and these guys were all just playing like their hair was on fire, and yet they weren't really making plays. You know what I mean? So it was interesting to see if they get back to that. I know probably Jim Knowles wanted to see that on video just so he'd have something to coach with. But yeah, you're exactly right. Otherwise, defensively, you never sneer at a shutout, because a shutout has luck involved in modern college football, just like we saw the missed field goal attempt. And Purdue was in field goal range a couple other times, but barely. But the bottom line is you don't ever discount. I just like to discount a shutout. I just like the way this defense has played. I like the way it played against Oregon, but it got caught in some flip-flops. I've really liked the way it's played the last 3 weeks, just from an intensity standpoint. And I thought it ratcheted it up a little bit more today than even the week before at Penn State, just from the standpoint of you're not going to score. You know what I mean? Kind of idea. Because, obviously Penn State did not score a touchdown. So it bodes well for this team.
Maybe it's a weird take, maybe it's more suited for Monday, and we'll talk about this a little more on Monday. I am glad that the jack position was used and didn't work. Because now you can get it on film against a bad, be honest with ourselves, a bad team still was able to have some success against it. And hey guys, we did it. Here's what it's supposed to look like. Here's Oklahoma State tape. Here's what you did wrong. And this is why it didn't work. Because if it worked against Purdue, we would say, oh, there's the jack position. That's really awesome. And we would just kind of gloss over it. But the fact that they used the jack and it didn't work tells me that they want to use it, they want to install it, they want it to be a featured part of this defense, whether that be against Michigan or against Indiana or Oregon in the Big Ten title game as a changeup on a drive or even 2 or 3 plays. That it didn't work tells me that they're going to be willing to work through those issues and continue to go at it. And I just think it's a silver lining to that not working. That I see you.
Oh no, I'm just letting you know. I'm not trying to interrupt you.
I just think it's a silver lining to that not working. That hey, we can now teach off of it and not just say hey, good job, slap on the ass, go get them again.
Yeah, see on TV, if somebody's doing this, you don't have to acknowledge them doing that. You just go. The thing I will say, and it's what the other thing that was obvious, it's still in their playbook. It's still in their defensive.
Well, I think it's new to their defensive playbook.
But you understand what I mean?
Yeah.
It's still there.
Yeah.
That's what was kind of stunning to me because I thought they had moved on. They want some different stuff. I mean, Ryan Day, pardon the expression, when he jacked up this defense after the Oregon game, that's, you don't want to be stagnant as Cody Simon put it, in like they were in some parts of that Oregon game.
As Nick Saban said.
Exactly. You want it to be, although I can show Nick Saban some really bad Alabama defensive video. That's another story.
It is.
Including go back and look at the 2014 Sugar Bowl. But I digress. Bottom line is, it is interesting that halfway through this season, they've got some stuff that you might be seeing more of later, just like the 2-back look with Quinshon and Travion on the. We all knew that was there, but they haven't shown it really. Yeah. So that's what's interesting about this football team. It's evolving as we speak.
They'd also put a lot of offensive wrinkles out there. Just again, I love the phrase that you used, the day of experimentation. Mm-hmm. They clearly saw on the film that this was a Purdue team that was not going to be able to hang, or else they would not have done the jack thing in the third drive of the game on the defense and trusted that they could still get a stop, even as Purdue was marching down the field. They trusted that they could do some new things with the offense that maybe looked a little clunky there for a little bit and still be able to put up 40 points on this Purdue defense. It's very clear that Ohio State had plans for this game that were not just a game plan, play sheet. They had things that they wanted to get accomplished. Mm-hmm. And Andy, I feel like they got those things all accomplished, being able to put a lot onto the field as teach tape moving forward.
Yeah, and Will Howard's the conductor of that offense, playing Purdue. We got to throw a train pun in there. Right?
I like it.
I was going to say, when he said marching, Purdue was marching, the only thing missing was their big bass drum.
That's right, yeah. Will Howard, 21 of 26, 260 passing yards. He also gained, 20-something yards on the ground, only netted 7 because he was sacked. Actually, he sacked himself a couple times. He said he's getting new cleats, guys. He's getting new cleats. He was not happy with how unathletic he looked on some of those plays. But clean game for him, which is important. He had an interception in 5 of the last 6 games. No interception today. No fumble today in this game. I think he played a pretty solid game. Again, only 4 possessions for Ohio State offensively in the first half. They scored 3 touchdowns on that, and the other one, as we talked about, maybe could have been a touchdown if G. Scott came down with that. But also, Will Howard, not his best throw on that, too. I want to point that out. Kind of an error on both parts. G. Scott probably could have caught it. Will Howard also could have put it in a much better spot. I do want to also touch on the backup quarterback thing. We don't need to get into it. It's probably more Monday, but just interesting that on a 3rd and 12, Julian Sain comes in, mid-series when Devin Brown is in there not having success. with that second team offense. It's just an important question to have in the back of our mind. We all hope that Will Howard stays healthy.
Yeah.
He's had a great season, but it's an important question to ask for a team that, as Jeremiah Smith says, might play 7 more games.
Yeah.
And so you have to be thinking, who is that guy? And neither one was able to lead a scoring drive, but it was interesting they made that switch mid-series.
Yeah, it's funny because Will Howard bailed himself out on this, but when he took that sack down in red zone territory, just standing there too long with the ball, he kind of drifted out right. I mean, you can't take a sack there, especially the time left on the clock. There was near the end of the first half, right? And then the ball he threw to Cardell Tate clearly was short.
Yeah.
I mean, Cardell Tate was gone.
Yeah.
And so, the people who are all, messaging and everything else about Ohio State, the deep ball with Ohio State and Will Howard, they got a little more ammunition there.
Yep.
I mean, clearly that's got to be better, in some form or fashion. And we'll see where it goes because, boy, that's just 3 or 4 more touchdowns that they didn't get over the last many games that could have really been real game changers. But I thought Will Howard, for the most part, played a pretty good game, especially when he called his number 3 straight times running the ball, before cooler heads prevailed on that one red zone area.
Yeah, I like the game that he played. I thought he managed the game well, not being a game manager because that's, for some reason, turned into a pejorative. I thought he managed the game well without being a game manager. Like you said, Tim, that deep ball's got to be better. And the other thing that has to be better is this damn turf. It is terrible. If anybody at Ohio State is watching, this turf needs to be thrown so far into the Olentangy and put new turf down. This thing is terrible.
Or just get new shoes.
I know. The turf looks terrible on TV. Nobody else in the country has turf that looks like this on TV. It looks awful, and everybody slips on it. Nobody likes it, and it's the slip. It's the slit turf. It's not the other kind of turf, whatever that's called. They need to get rid of this and put new turf down as soon as possible.
How about how slippery?
That's my soapbox. I'm
How
going to
about
stand
how
on it.
slippery
New
Penn
turf.
State's real grass was last week?
Yeah.
I mean, that was bad.
Well, I'm talking turf, and I don't like this turf.
Okay, artificial turf.
Get it out of here. We're going to get out of here, too, hopefully with the turf. Maybe we'll just rip it up
Souvenirs.
ourselves and take it out of here because it needs to be gone after the Michigan game. That's Andy Backstrom. That's Tim May, the 41-year vet. I'm just Spencer Holbrook. We're going to go back up to the press box, get to work for the content at lettermenrow.com, which you guys know and love, hopefully. Like the video below, subscribe to the YouTube channel. We'll see you guys back in here on Monday for the Monday after Ohio State 45, Purdue 0. Until then, just head to lettermenrow.com. That's where all the coverage resides. We'll see you guys there.